One moment, the fields were empty, and the next, more Native Americans than I had ever imagined were in front of the fort. That's what 17-year-old Rachel Parker witnessed on the morning she was captured during a Comanche raid. In this tragic event, her home was destroyed, and many family members were killed. It seemed like hundreds of mounted warriors appeared out of nowhere, without warning. Today, we'll explore what it was like to experience a Comanche attack. Welcome to Dates and Dead Faces. The Comanches were rightfully known as one of the most formidable and feared Western tribes. Their territory spanned across the southern plains, a harsh land they had claimed by force. As nomads, their mastery of horseback riding was essential to their power, a skill developed from the introduction and escape of Spanish horses in the 16th and 17th centuries. The Comanches were unmatched in their abilities and were legendary as warriors and raiders. Explore the Old West like never before with this National Geographic book, uncovering the journey of native warriors like Crazy Horse and Geronimo, along with the culture and conflicts of native peoples through the 19th century. It includes stunning illustrations, exclusive maps, and vivid historical accounts. Get your copy and experience the West in a whole new way. Check the link in the video description or in the first pinned comment. In the late 1700s, they drove out rivals like the Apaches from the plains and forged tense treaties with the Spanish before Mexican independence. However, in the 1800s, American westward expansion led to inevitable clashes between settlers and Comanches. The idea of manifest destiny drove the United States to expand from coast to coast. The discovery of gold in California initially drew settlers away from Comanche lands, which remained mostly untouched for a time. But the promise of fertile lands soon lured many settlers, inevitably catching the attention of the Comanches. Some tribes could be bought off, intimidated, or tricked, but the Comanches were not the negotiating type. Over the previous 200 years, their culture had grown through constant warfare. Every passing generation solidified this lifestyle, and as raiders, they were masters. A clear example of this is their interaction with the Spanish at San Saba a century earlier. The Apaches had tricked the Spanish into building a mission and fortification in Comanche territory, hoping to spark a war between their enemies. In March 1758, soldiers at the Presidio awoke to the war cries of 2,000 Comanche warriors. At first, the Comanches pretended to be peaceful, but soon revealed their true intentions. T.R. Farrick, in his book Comanches, A History of a People, describes what the Spanish saw as an impressive spectacle of indigenous warriors in full war regalia. The Comanches wore feather headdresses, deerskins, and bison horns, with faces painted red and black, colors associated with death. After destroying the mission, the Comanches remained outside the Presidio walls for several days, slaughtering Spanish livestock before leaving. This was Europe's introduction to the Comanches. Now, in the 1800s, settlers faced a dangerous reality. One moment they could be safe at home, and the next, they were in imminent danger. Accounts from settlers in the early 1800s to the 1870s show what it was like to live on the edge of Comanche territory. The Comanches were strategic raiders, capable of covering vast distances quickly. Attacks often took place in spring, when the grass was tall, providing pasture for their horses. They moved in secrecy, often at night, a time when other tribes, like the Apaches, avoided travel. Before we continue with this fascinating story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Your engagement helps us bring you more quality content. Let's dive into more amazing history and intriguing stories. Settlers quickly learned that when the grass grew and the moon was full, they were in danger, a condition still known today as the Comanche moon. As more settlers moved into Texas, clashes became more frequent. Although records are scarce, it's estimated that in some years, as many as 200 settlers may have been killed. This number may be exaggerated, but the impact of Comanche attacks was undeniable. A notable example of how the Comanches attacked was the Parker Fort Massacre in 1836. Among the survivors was 17-year-old newlywed Rachel Parker, described as very beautiful, with long red hair. Her story illustrates the brutal reality and strength of the Comanche people at that time. Rachel, her husband Luther, and several other families had moved to Texas in the preceding years, seeking land and opportunity, like many settlers of the time. They received a land grant on the Navasota River in what is now Limestone County, far beyond most white settlements on the frontier. This area was known to be within the Comanche attack zone, but most local tribes had signed peace treaties with Texas. It was thought that with a fort, they would be safe, so they built one. Fort Parker was large, covering several acres and fully enclosed by 12-foot-high walls. It had only 2 entrances, a large gate in the front and a smaller one in the back. Inside were several cabins and 2 blockhouses for lookouts. The fort was designed to be a formidable barrier. Most of its inhabitants were relatives of the Parker family, but others had nearby farms and planned to use the fort as protection from the dangers of the plains. They didn't expect what would come in May 1836. Without warning, the Comanches traveled swiftly under a full moon, invading the area. They reached Fort Parker's gates on the morning of the 19th. That morning started like any other for the fort's inhabitants. Around 9 a.m., several men, including Rachel's father, husband, and brother, went out to work in the farm fields. It was warm and quiet. Rachel completed some chores and played with her 18-month-old son, but around 10 a.m., the calm was shattered by warning cries from outside. Rachel looked out the window and saw a large group of Comanche warriors approaching quickly, armed and ready to attack. Inside the fort, panic quickly spread. The few men remaining tried to close the gates, but there were too many Comanches, and they moved swiftly. Within minutes, they breached the defenses and entered the fort. The warriors stormed the fort. Desperate, Rachel tried to find a safe place to hide with her son, but chaos had taken over. Most men who tried to resist were quickly subdued, and the women and children were captured. Rachel was separated from her husband and other family members. She watched helplessly as the Comanches looted the fort and took everyone they could as captives. Among the captives were Rachel and her son, along with other relatives and neighbors. The Comanches also took provisions and other goods before quickly departing with their prisoners. The Comanches had a well-defined strategy for these attacks. They moved fast and disappeared before any help could arrive. Rachel and the other captives were forced to follow the warriors on a rapid march, leaving behind everything they had known. During her 21 months in captivity, Rachel experienced the brutality and complexity of life among the Comanches. She faced extremely difficult conditions, including mistreatment and deprivation. Separated from her son and husband, Rachel endured a deep and constant sense of loss. As a captive, Rachel had to adapt to the harsh conditions and the Comanche way of life. She witnessed their traditions, customs, and the role of women in Comanche society. Despite the hardships, Rachel showed remarkable resilience. Her ability to survive and learn about native culture was crucial to her endurance. She became a keen observer of life among the Comanches, gaining a deep understanding of their ways of life. After being rescued in 1838, Rachel Parker Plummer returned to her community, deeply affected by her experiences. Shortly after her return, she decided to write about her captivity. Her book, Rachel Plummer's Narrative of 21 Months' Servitude as a Prisoner Among the Comanche Indians, was one of the first works written by an American female captive, detailing life among Native Americans. Her account is a powerful and vivid testimony to the hardships faced by captives and offers a detailed view of Comanche culture. Rachel described not only the harsh aspects of her life as a captive, but also the daily interactions, rituals, and practices of the Comanches. She highlighted the importance of horses in Comanche society, their social organization, and religious practices, providing a rare insight into the inner life of the tribe. Her account helped shape the public's perception of the Comanches and the challenges faced by settlers on the frontier. This traumatic experience left a deep mark on Rachel Parker and all those who survived the attack. The incident at Fort Parker became one of the most well-known events of hostilities between settlers and the Comanches during that time, symbolizing the harsh reality of frontier life. The attack also highlighted the fragility of frontier settlements and the constant threat posed by conflicts between settlers and Native Americans. The story of the Fort Parker attack is a powerful reminder of the challenges and dangers faced by settlers venturing into Texas frontier in the early 19th century. These events underscore the ongoing tension between settlers in search of new opportunities and the native tribes who fought to protect their lands and ways of life. The tragedy experienced by Rachel Parker and her family exemplifies the brutality of these conflicts and the uncertainty of frontier life. Additionally, it highlights the resilience and courage needed to survive in a land of constant change and confrontation. This episode is a crucial part of American expansion history, offering lessons on coexistence and the complexities of relationships between different cultures. If you enjoyed this video and want to keep learning more about fascinating history and curiosities, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement means a lot to us. Leave your comments and suggestions below. We'd love to know what you thought and what topics you'd like to see in future videos. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.